This is a narration of a Twitter thread posted on May 20th, 2021 by PrefPlum99, which is the Twitter account for Michael Green. Begin thread. So there's a lot of mudslinging going around about political ideology. A subsegment of FinTwit seems to have decided that statist is an appropriate slur to deploy. For those wondering, a statist is one who believes in some claim to legitimacy of the political authority of the government. The antonym of statist is an anarchist, but within statism there is a wide range of beliefs. Minarchism is the belief in the minimum necessary state to enforce the non-aggression principle, both within a society and from foreign aggression. I am a fan. It is well phrased in the preamble to the Constitution of the U.S., quote, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." End quote. This is a remarkable document, produced by a thoughtful group of individuals in a process likened to sausage making while juggling flaming swords. At the time, it was unique in the known history of the world. It describes the what and why objective functions of the document, not the powers required. In my humble opinion, this was quite intentional, introducing a degree of flexibility in the size and role of the government required to establish the objective function given threats to the objective. The subsequent language, amendments, and Bill of Rights extended this flexibility, while introducing a system of checks and balances and individual rights that reduce threats of the government expanding without limits. While it is common to blame the challenges in America on unchecked growth of government, I'd suggest there's an incoherence in these complaints, alleging both incompetence and master plan nefarious intent. Far more explanatory power exists in a model of capture. To the extent America has gone wrong, I'd suggest it has been the unchecked growth of the power of special interests, enemies of the objective function that take form both foreign and domestic. Regular readers of my work know that I regularly refer to the loss of the Republic in Rome under similar circumstances. A wonderful quote about Rome from the period is ascribed to Jugurtha. Quote, "A city for sale and doomed to quick destruction if it should find a buyer." End quote. Under the stress of regional hegemony that had produced a surplus of free slave labor, the capitalist class felt no loyalty to the greater good, and a system of political bribery quickly emerged, with senatorial votes for sale to the highest bidder. Jugurtha simply exposed the extent of the systemic corruption, similar, in my humble opinion, to China and mega corporates today. And this is the rub, because when faced with state-level actors, the state itself must expand to address these threats or face loss of credibility in addressing the non-aggression principle. Anyone who has watched a classic Western where the sheriff unilaterally expands government forces by deputizing a band of vigilantes to fight back against a gang of outlaws is familiar with the concept. In my humble opinion, the role of the state in protecting life, liberty, and happiness is legitimate. Bitcoiners, as natural anarcho-capitalists, are the internal antagonists to this view, understandably resisting the expansion of the state out of fear that the state will not retreat once the threat is addressed. The sheriff could theoretically keep his vigilantes on staff and replace the extortionist outlaws with something far worse. I have no problem with this objection and applaud it. What I can't endorse is the misrepresentation of facts in the hopes of gaining adherence to this resistance. It is my view that the frustration of many average Americans are the byproduct of the introduction of modern systems of tribute from foreign nations. Cheap iPhones produced with forced labor is no different than gold from Numidian mines or grain from Egypt. In both cases, the objectives of Jugurtha and Xi are deeply at odds with the objective function of the preamble to the Constitution from the perspective of Roman and U.S. citizens, respectively. The benefit of their bribes and tribute has accrued to the senatorial class through systems of patronage and graft, and the capitalist elite through supply of cheap labor and artificially low tax rates. In my humble opinion, like Greenspan before him, the Bitcoin maximalists have fallen prey to a flaw in their worldview. Scamsters aside, they are generally seeking the best outcome for the individual, guided by the belief in the invisible hand to maximize outcomes. This is perfectly encapsulated in Bitcoin's system of protection through adherence to economic incentives. Unfortunately, this system breaks down in the face of non-economic actors. Xi, like Yugurtha before him, is uninterested in maximizing economic well-being, instead focused on power accumulation. So, as a minarchist, I find myself in the uncomfortable position of suggesting we face two choices: an expansion of the role of the state to prevent the actions of scale actors who would harm the objective function, or a need to radically improve the efficiency of the state to address these threats. The Romans had a solution for that situation: a dictator. This outcome was so odious to the US founders that they explicitly disavowed it. I share their concern, which pushes me to increase regulation on scale US actors and firm diplomatic pressure on China. Will the sheriff disband his posse when the outlaws have been defeated? We can't know. But I feel more comfortable with the odds when conducted in a disciplined, thoughtful, and proactive manner than when forced by truly exigent circumstances. In my humble opinion, the path of Bitcoin and anarcho-capitalism in the face of state-level threats will bring us close enough to the point of failure that we will be thrust into the arms of Marius, the true beginning of the end for the Roman Republic. And with that, as Rufus might say, quote, "Gentlemen, we're history." End quote. That's the end of the thread. Whether or not you agree with this post, I encourage you to leave your thoughts and feedback below, or on the original Twitter post directly, which you can find on the author's feed. I hope you enjoyed this narration. My name is Jon Kutsmeda, and you can find me on Twitter, along with all social media, under the account name Jon Kutsmeda, all one word, spelled JONKUTSMEDA. If there are other Twitter threads or social media content you would like to see in this type of media format, please contact me directly with your requests.